someone would offer a good and sensible
and intelligent
definition of the word state.
The State, an essay by Frederic Bastiat, written in 2008, just after the most recent presidential. Written in France after the French presidential elections in 1848.
The state. What is it? Where is it? What does it do? What ought it to do? All we know is that it is a mysterious personage, and assuredly, it is the most overwhelmed, the most admired, the most accused, the most invoked, and the most provoked personage in the world. Alas, the poor, unfortunate personage knows not where to turn or what voice to listen to. 100,000 voices of the press and platform all cry out at once.
Repress insolence and tyranny of capital.
Make experiments on manure and eggs.
And cover the country with railroads.
Irrigate the plains.
Plant the hills.
Make malls.
Found social workshops.
Nurture the children.
Instruct the youth.
Assist the aged.
Send the inhabitants of the towns into the country.
Equalize the profits of all trades.
Rear and perfect the saddle horse.
Emancipate oppressed people everywhere.
Lend money without interest to all who wish to borrow.
Discover truth and put a grain of reason into
The mission
our
of the
heads.
state is to enlighten, to develop, to extend, to falsify, to sanctify, and to spiritualize the soul of the people.
Have a little patience, gentlemen. I will do what I can to satisfy you, but for this I must have resources. Now, I have been drawing up plans for 5 or 6 new taxes, which are not at all oppressive. You will see how pleasurable it will be to pay them.
No, indeed. For where is the merit in doing something with resources? Why, it does not deserve the name of state. Far from loading us with fresh taxes, you ought to withdraw the old ones. Why, you ought to suppress the tobacco tax.
The tax on liquors.
The tax on
custom house
letters.
duties.
Patents.
Compulsory services.
In the midst of this tumult, and now that our country has again changed administration for not having satisfied all these demands, I wish to show that they are contradictory. I fear that we are the dupes of one of the strangest ideas to ever have taken possession of the human mind. Man recoils from trouble, but he is condemned to suffering if he does not take the trouble to work. He must therefore choose between these two evils. What means can he adopt to avoid them both?
There is one way, which is to enjoy the labors of others. Such a course of conduct prevents trouble and satisfaction from maintaining their natural proportions, causing all the trouble to be the lot of one set of persons and all the satisfaction that of another.
This is the origin of plunder, whatever its form may be. Our disposition to defend our property makes open plunder from being easy, but one thing still remains. The inclination to throw all of the trouble upon others and to keep all of the satisfaction. The oppressor can no longer act directly upon his victim. No! Our consciences have become much too sensitive for that. The oppressor and his victim still remain, but now they have an intermediate source, which is
the state! For what could be better calculated to silence our scruples and overcome all resistance? And so, by this means,
thus the people have many hopes.
And the state makes 2 promises.
Many benefits and no taxes! Hopes and promises, which, being contradictory, can never be realized. Now, is not this the cause of all our revolutions?
The authorities are deceiving you. If we were in that place, we would load you down with benefits and exempt you from all taxes.
And the people believe.
And the people hope. But the new state soon finds that it is much easier to promise than to perform. It makes a small increase in education and a few reductions of taxes, but the contradiction is forever before it. If it wants to be philanthropic, then it must attend to its exchequer.
These two promises are forever conflicting with each other. And to live upon credit, which is the same as exhausting the future, is certainly a present means of reconciling them. An attempt is made to do a little good now, at the expense of a great deal of harm in the future. What is to be done then?
The new state announces that it is impossible to run the administration without the risk of being unpopular.
They exhibit the same illusion, pass by the same way, and are soon swallowed in the same gulf. Consider the last manifesto of one of our own political parties just after the most recent presidential election. It concludes with these words:
"The state ought to give much to the people and take little from them."
It is always the same tactics, or rather, the same mistakes. The state is bound
to give freely education to all of its citizens.
It is bound
And to teach each citizen his duty.
It is
To
bound
provide compensation for fires, flooding, etc.
It is bound
To provide protection of agriculture.
The state is bound to do all of this, meanwhile keeping up all of its former promises. Furthermore, it must always maintain a menacing attitude towards foreigners, for we wish to spread our hopes and dreams beyond the boundaries of nations.
You see that the gentle hand of the state, that hand which gives and distributes, will be very busy under the reign of the reformers. You think, perhaps, that it will not be the same with the rough hand, that hand which dives into our pockets.
Their reign will assuredly be the jubilee of all taxpayers.
It is superfluities, not necessities, which ought to be taxed.
Truly, it will be a good time when the exchequer contents himself with curtailing our superfluities. The reformers intend that
Taxation shall lose its oppressive character and become only an act of fraternity.
we desire the immediate abolition of all those taxes which deal with the necessaries of life, such as salt, liquors, etc.
The reform of the tax on landed property, customs, patents.
Free justice, that is, the simplification of its forms and the reduction of its fees.
And so, by this means, the tax on landed property, customs, patents, salt, liquor, postage stamps, all are included.
These men have truly found the answer to giving excessive activity to the gentle hand of the state, while completely paralyzing the rough hand.
Is it not childishness? And more than that, dangerous childishness? Is it not inevitable that we shall have a revolution if we are determined not to stop until this is realized?
To give nothing to the state, but to take much from it.
In all times, two political systems have been in place. According to one of them,
The state ought to give much, but then it ought to take much.
and according to the other,
This twofold activity ought to be little felt.
we must choose between these two systems. But as to the third, as pertains to the idea of exacting everything from the state and giving nothing to it, it is absurd. And those who parade it are only flattering and deceiving you. For ourselves, we believe that the state ought to be nothing whatever besides the united power of the people, organized
Not to be an instrument of oppression and mutual plunder.
on the contrary, but to secure every man his own, and to cause justice to reign.